Hi, everybody. This is David Paniego from Ventuz. Welcome to this webinar. As you can see, it's about data input in Ventuz. It's a basics webinar, maybe not so basic, but it's not very advanced in terms of what we are doing graphically, but there's some interesting stuff about how we act with external data. But first of all, we have some good news for you guys. We have just released a new version, 6.6, yesterday. So it's available out there. So let's check it out, what we have here, while we wait for others to join us. This is the new release video that you can find on our YouTube channel. And this is what's new. First thing we have is a web-based configuration editor, which has been asked for many of our customers for many years. It's really cool, and it's gonna get even better on next releases. But this one right now is really super, really handy and really useful. Apart from that, we have added property tabs, which would have been perfect for the webinar we're going to do today. Unfortunately, I didn't have 6.6. I prefer to use a previous release for this webinar. But these tabs where you can group many parameters and many properties together and separate them in different tabs. It's really handy when you have a very complex scene and you need to have very quick access to different values and different parameters out there. Now we have this new node. Before we can also have a Chinese text inside of Ventuz, but you couldn't type inside of Ventuz, but now we can do it. So that's really cool, especially for people who speak Chinese. And we have added some other stuff, especially H.265 decoding is really interesting. And we have updated the support for a lot of SDI boards out there in the market. So I hope that you guys like it. Okay, so I just spent 2 minutes with this. Well, just for you to know, this is what you're seeing here is Ventuz, is our YouTube channel. This is the integrated web browser we have inside of Ventuz. So we are seeing the YouTube stream inside of these web browser that we can map into any surface inside of Ventuz. Okay, let's see what we're going to do here. Okay, as you can see here is what we are trying to make today. Just a small weather info screen, not very fancy. But the cool part about it is that we are getting the data live from the internet. So basically, it retrieves the data and it updates automatically just by grabbing the information from a website. Okay, and where there are some other stuff like animation stuff like that. So I will show you later on. It's 3 minutes past 5. Let's wait a couple of minutes for the next one for all the people to join us. Sorry. So meanwhile, you can see the weather the weather in all the major cities in Spain for the next hours. So if you're thinking about visiting us, now you have the information. Okay. Well, let me tell you that this is inspired by some development made by one of our customers, by Glare, which has a more sophisticated version of this, a more advanced version of this that on the Ventuz store. So you can go there and check it out. And if you feel interesting, maybe you can purchase it there. It allows to do a lot more stuff. It looks a lot nicer than the stuff that we are showing here. But it's based on the same stuff. Just for you to know, we are retrieving the information from this OpenWeather API, OpenWeather.org API, sorry. It's a REST API. So basically what we're getting in return when we call it is a JSON, or either a JSON or an XML file. Okay, so let's take this out and go to the very beginning. Okay, well, I don't know if you're familiar with Ventuz. Just for you to know, this is the Ventuz designer. Here you have layers. Each layer can be, you can think of it like something like a mini scene. We have 2D and 3D layers. In this case, all the stuff we're going to make is going to be made on a 3D layer. And all I have now is just an axis. And this is the script that I told you that it's retrieving the information from this weather API. If we open it, you see that I have created two input variables. One is called city ID, another one is called lang. We are going to use it to swap the language in case we want to have it in English or in Spanish. And then we have an output value, which is, in this case, I was super original. I called it JSON because it's a JSON file. If you take a look at the script, it's nothing fancy. Here's where I have created this string here that I call datos. And that one is calling the REST API at openweathermap.org and just creating the string that's going to be used to call the data. I'm using this web client class to create a new object. In this case, it's called client, nothing fancy. I have added the system.net library here, so I have access to the web client class. And then I just said that the output value, which is JSON, is going to use the download string method from the client class, from the web client class, sorry, and using the data that I have, the string that I have created before that is making the call for the data. And the result of all that is just a JSON file. So if you go in here, you see all this long string here. This is the JSON file with the data that we're getting in return. Okay, so let's get in here and just add a 2D text. Okay, and for the sake of your mental health, it's always interesting to label your nodes. So let's call this one city name. Okay, that's going to be the city name. For all of you who are new to Ventuz, this area here is the content. So here is the hierarchy where we add all the 3D elements in this 3D scene or mini scene. In this case, that's a layer. And here we connect to data. Okay, here we are connecting. We're going to connect to the output of the script. It's down here. And each text that we're creating here, it has two elements. One is in the content area, and the other one is in the hierarchy area. Basically, this is placing the 3D object in space or rendering it. Actually, we're positioning it with this axis here, while this one is just retrieving the text that's going to be used. By default, it says block text. Let's create what we call a family. So it's just an interface widget just to allow you to grab your stuff easier, so they group it. But that's okay. So I can get this information, the text I'm getting from for this, I can get it from the script. And now you see that this is, as I said before, this is the long string that we're getting from the script that we were running. I forgot to mention that the script that we are running here, that one there, is C#, as you can see by the icon. Okay, great, excellent. Apart from this, I have already created a preset for the text, so I can use that one. It's called weather, nothing fancy, and just align it to the center. Because later on it will be easier for me to, if I have all the text line to the center, and I'm gonna copy a lot of those. Okay, so let's take this one out and let's see how we can get some of the values down from this long string that we're getting here. Okay, what I've done is that I have created an Excel file that we can, of course, load inside of Ventuz, like this one. We open it with Excel. You'll see that it's, I have to activate Excel. You can see that it's very simple. Basically, I have the name of the city. This ID is what this Open Weather API uses to retrieve the data for that particular location. And here I have longitude and latitude because that's another option that you can use for retrieving that data. But in this case, we're gonna get that one too, the one here. And let's just get one of the cells. You can select the cell by name or by a row and column. In this case, I'm just going to use row and column. So they're getting this from the workbook. Okay. And as you can see here, I'm already getting the first value of the first row, first column, which is Madrid. I can connect that to the text. So now instead of saying that, it will say Madrid. Fantastic. Okay, what else? Okay, so it's okay, we are getting this, but we need some other information that we're going to use for the script. As I said, if you remember in the script here, we have city ID. That's actually the value that we have to ingest inside of the script to retrieve the JSON file with all the weather forecasts for this particular location. So how we do it, okay, we will add another Excel cell here. It's going to be the same row from this one, same workbook from this one. So it's just passing through. But in this case, I want the second column. Yeah. So we take a look at the output here. Now you see that we're getting is this ID, the one I told you. Okay. So let's connect this city ID to this. And voila. All you're getting here is now the weather forecast for Madrid City. But right now it's still a long JSON string that it's not very useful for now. Okay, so one of the cool things about Ventuz is that we have a lot of nodes to parse. We have a JSON parser, we have other nodes to parse different types of data. But in this case, we're working with JSON, so this is the JSON file, we grab it here, and automatically, and that's for me the coolest part of it, is that we can select this update button here, and it will create different data outputs depending on the levels or the different sub-levels you have on your JSON file. Okay, so good. This is the output. Oh, just for you to know, let's get rid of this. All Ventuz nodes, they have an input properties and output properties. Okay, so we select this node. You see that we have the input, which is the JSON file. We're grabbing from this one, and then we have the outputs. And here we have different outputs. First one is the information about the city. We don't need it because we're grabbing it from the Excel file. I prefer to do it that way because these libraries are American, so some of the special characters we have in Spanish, they are not appearing there. So I prefer to have a properly written on the other part, but it's exactly the same. So basically we're getting that. And so that one we don't need it. That one is we don't need it to. That one we don't need it to. That one we don't need it. And this one, this list, is where the most of the information, all of the weather information is embedded. Okay, so let's call this bulk. It's always important that you label your nodes, otherwise you could get lost like quite easily. And let's add another JSON file here, JSON parser, sorry. This JSON parser is going to grab the output of this one, and that's we're going to call this one weather. Okay, and this weather is going to grab the other one, and we do the same trick. Date, and there we have here in the outputs, we have all the different outputs for this. First one is the clouds information, but this is not the way we want it. So let's delete these ones and that one. And I just keep main, which is the temperature information, as you can see here. Weather, that's the weather information, and that one is the wind information, as you could guess. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Let's add another JSON parser. JSON parser is your friend. And this one is going to grab, let's call this one temperature, or temp for sure. Okay. And that one is going to grab the main. Okay. And as you can see, main has a bunch of values here. It's actually an array of values, but what I can do, and this is the easiest way, I can do this again. Select this one, take this one out, 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 and this one out, and that one out. Okay, so now I have the current temperature, maximum temperature, sorry, and minimum temperature. Excellent. So what can we do now? Okay, so let's disconnect this for a while because this is starting to get a little bit complicated. So we're going to pack all these nodes into what we call a container. Okay, so in this case, this is a content container. Okay, again, let's label it like weather data. Okay, and these right now you see that this is just a container which has everything inside but with no data outputs. So we have to get inside of here and expose the values that we want to control. So we can select this one, this one, this one, and the other one was the city info, so it was this one. Okay, so if I go out of here, you see that now I have all these temperature values and I have the other stuff. Okay, so let's duplicate this thingy because we're going to need a lot of text here. Okay, just by selecting the branch and hitting Control and dragging down, you copy this branch of the of your hierarchy. Okay, so that one's going to be the temperature. This is going to be the maximum minimum. Whoops. That one is going to be the forecast. And that one's going to be the wind speed. Okay. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, let's select this one, this one, this one, this one. You see that now that's why we have created the family before, because now they're organized in a very nice way. Okay, so let's connect this again to that one. But as you can see here in the container, the information with all the different parameters, all different properties that we have here, different values that we're exposing, are not very well organized. So you can get in there, or you can use it here in the interfacing, but let's do it inside of a container because we have to add more stuff. Okay, so let's add, first of all, let's format this thing. Okay, by double clicking here, I can change the name of this particular value. So let's call it temperature. Oops, sorry. Caps lock. And you can group them in different categories. This is what we have added today. It's a lot more advanced in the new version that we have just released today. It allows to do this, but also to create tabs. And that's why I said that it was a lot easier and a lot better for this. Same one for this. So let's call it max. And again, on the temperatures. And let's copy this because I'm lazy. Okay, and same one for this one. You guess the name, I guess. And let's create this thingy. Okay, so if I go outside of here, now you see that all of these, oh, that one, I made a typo here. I can solve it quite easily. Okay, so I can get in here or go to the interface in there, but let's get in here. Just change it here. Yeah, temperatures. Cool, excellent. So now we have here, we have all our temperature values. One of the things that you will realize here is that all the temperature values are, they appear, all of them, they appear as a floating number. So it's very exact value, but normally we are not used to talk about temperatures in that way. So what we have to do is we have to round up those values. In order to do that, what I do is I create an expression. In this case, it's going to be a float expression. And expression works like this. Basically, you get the value that you want to change. You have up to 4 values, but you can add more. And then you type in your expression here. Okay. So here in the text editor, I can select math round. I'm going to round it up. and the input A. Okay, I hit enter, and if the node stays gray, that means that you're fine, that you have no typos, no. It makes sense. let's say it that way. So if I take a look at the output here, now you see that it was 17.51, and now the output is 18 degrees. Okay, that's cool. So let's disconnect this one a little bit, and because I'm a lazy bastard, I'll do it that way. So that one is coming from max, that one is coming from minimum, and again, that one was coming from the current temperature for the first one. Okay, so now we have all the values rounded and all that. But I'm also missing here the degrees, the degrees Celsius symbol here. So how we do it? Okay, first of all, let's unexpose those just by right-clicking here. And I need to format these values a little bit more. So we use the convert to text, which is a very, very useful node. Convert to text works similar to the float. So basically you have inputs and you have here a text editor where you can format the input values in different ways. So the input value in this case is 0, okay? And what I'll do here is that, very simple, just add the degree symbol. And the output of this is going to be, you see, 18 degrees. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to expose now. Again, the temperatures. And let's call it May, or current temperature. Temp. Okay, great. What about the maximum and minimum? Okay, instead of using one for each one, we can see that there's a lot more that you can do with convert to text. So what I'll do here is I get first one from here and the second value from here. Okay, and how we're gonna do it? As you can see, we have these curly brackets, and this is 0. That means that this is going to be input 1. Sorry, input 0. Here I'm gonna add input 1 and some text, and it will concatenate. This degrees, 2 spaces to separate it, minimum column, and then this. Oops, sorry, that one. Okay, so if you take a look at the output here, you see that it has formatted it. And now I can expose the output of this and call it max min and temperatures. Okie dokie. Okay, so let's get in here. And now you see that we have the values that I have just created. They are exposed there. So let's start connecting stuff. Like this one and this one. That one is max min. So I need to connect these texts to max min. That's why it's important to label everything, because otherwise you could get lost quite easily. And let's reposition those. Let's place the, this is the temperature, so let's put it down there. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Something like 2 could work. And same for max minimum. Let's oops, sorry. That one. Okay, so now I have the city up there, the current temperature, and the max min. That one's maybe a little bit too big, so let's make it a little bit smaller, like 6 or 0.7. I think it's going to be better. Okay, so now we have this, and the top one, let's make it a little bit bigger so people can see that this is the city. The other stuff that you can see behind are these two, but if we select them and press Control V, we just bypass them and we disconnect them for now. Okay, great. So now we have a part of it. Okay, but as you can see, we are not cycling. We're just getting static data from one of the cities, not the rest. So how can we do that? I can get in here. I need to cycle through the values. There are many ways to do that in Ventuz, but one of the obvious ones and the most common ones is to use a counter. Okay, so I'm going to use a counter that's going to change the row here. And how does a counter work? It's quite easy. Let me just basically, it's a counter. Here it starts at 0 and ends at 9. But in this case, I know that there are 15 cities, so it will start at 1 and finish at 15 step, and it will cycle. It's a loop, so it will repeat the values. So I connect this, for instance, the row to here. Okay. So as soon as I change this, you see that I have the next city, next city, next city, next city, next city. So it's really simple stuff. Cool. What else? Just for us to test it, because sometimes we need to cycle that to test that it's cycling correctly. We're gonna just create a couple of keyboard. These are going to be temporary. So this is a keyboard mapping. So let's create a one. I copy and paste it. The other one. Let's make this smaller so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have two different keys. All I have to do is go here, select the keyboard, the key I want to press. In this case is numpad plus. And then this one is going to be, I guess you guessed it, num plus minus. So this is going to move forward whenever I hit this key. And that one is going to move backwards whenever I hit this key. Okay, so if I test it, now I can see I can go through the list of different cities, and I'm retrieving the data from this Open Weather API live, because I'm just changing the ID here, and this is calling the script inside with a new ID. Great, excellent. Okay, so but there are more data that we need to get from here. So let's add another JSON parser. This one's going to be the weather forecast. So weather. And that one is going to come from here, weather. And the same trick we have used a couple of times. Update, okay, creates all the values. Let's check the outputs. And here we have, as you can see here, it even identifies a certain code for an icon. So there, you can use icons that you can get from this library and use them to show the different types of weather forecasts that you have. But for this case, I'm going to get just like the description, so a small description and like a brief description of the weather, of the current weather forecast for this area. Just for you to know, the call we're using here, it's basically recalling the weather for a period of 3 hours, but there are other options. And if you have the paid version of the API, you can have a lot more control. But with the free versions, you have this one, or you have to use longitude and latitude, and it gives you information like a daily forecast, like more in a traditional way. But for this, just for you to understand what we're doing, I think that's okay. Okay, so we have this weather here, and as I said, I have highlighted these two values. You can see the description is in lowercase, so I can use a casing node just to change the case of these. Okay, so it's description, and that one I wanted to turn it to upper. So if I select to see you see that the output of this uses uppercase. Okay, so again, I'm going to expose this one. Let's call it forecast. Let's get rid of the. Okay, and we can put it in. I'm not very good at typing, apparently. Okay, so we have added it to the weather category, and we need also to get the wind information. So let's do it very quick. JSON parser, call this one wind. Get it from here, wind. And in this case, there's nothing I have to do here because it's quite easy. I get the degrees, so basically the rotation or the direction of the wind, and that one is the speed. Okay. What I can do is I can create a converter text here, just to format the speed a little bit, so I can put this and say that I'm putting kilometers per hour. Okay, that's it. Okay, and the output of this is going to be the wind speed. So category wind, and I can call this speed. If I learn to type, it would be a lot better, I guess. Okay, now we have the speed. Cool, we have all of that, but I also want to highlight this, a degree, because we will use it later on. So let's do it again, wind, and with degree. In this case, it was fine by default. Okay, so now we have this, and let's unlock this other nodes here. Okay, Control B, select them, Control B, and let's start connecting. This is going to be the forecast. So this text forecast, that one is going to be connected to, sorry, I have to select one node that is connected to the container. So that one goes here to the forecast. Let's move it in X. So you see the broken clouds. That's the lovely weather we have today in Madrid. Or I guess that's another city. Anyway, what about the wind speed? Well, same trick. This one, this one. Let's select this one and go here. Okay, and sorry, just a sec, because I'm having problems with my mouse sometimes. I don't know why it's losing focus. Okay, let me do something. Force it to, just give me a sec. Now it works. I don't know, it's my mouse is giving me strange things. That's what happens when you buy a new mouse on confinement days. Okay, so what I said, I have this, and I want to connect this wind to the wind speed here. So speed. And again, use my axis to position it. So move it in X, move it in Y, so I can create like another block in here. Okay, so now we have the forecast here, the wind information, and the temperature information on the other side, and the city information. Cool, excellent. So now we want to add the small arrow to show the wind direction. So in order to do that, I'm going to create an axis. Axis here, and I'm going to create a circle. Okay, so I have this small circle here. Let's place it in where I want to place it. So I can edit it in context. It's going to be placed over there. And if you take a look at the circle, you have many different things that you can do with it. But one of the cool things is that if you reduce the tessellation, basically you create a triangle, which is what we want. You increase a little bit the tessellation, you get a rhombus or pentagon. So it's not only a circle creation tool. Very handy. Okay, let's make this one like 2 in X by 1 in Y. And also we have a hole control here. Okay, so I can create a small hole, as you can see. Let's do something like this. Cool. And let's make this bigger so you can see it. Okay, so now we have the wind there, but we need to connect it to the weather data. Okay, so let's select this one, and I need this and this, because what we're gonna change is the rotation of this. Okay, So we select rotation in Z and connect it to degree. And now you see that it's turning. If I cycle through the cities, you can see that it's changing. The only thing is that the way it changes from one to another is not like it could be a little bit better. So there's a very good way of doing that. I can do it inside or I can do it here. Let's do it here to make it easy. There are many nodes we have, but one of them is, which is really handy, is ease. Ease, what it does is basically it takes a value. Let's open it here. And it creates a function that oscillates depending on the value you select here. And it creates like it's like a spring. So basically it bounces back and forth until it reaches the final value. So you can see now that if I change this, you see that it's like bouncing. I think it looks cool. I think it's nice. Great. So now we have made like the basic info screen. Now let's fine tune it a little bit. Let's create a small background for it. So I just add an axis, put it down there. Just for you to know, the order of the different elements we are adding, and the same goes for the order of the layers here. It's top bottom is maybe a little bit the opposite as you expected. I know there are some softwares out there that were the same, but it's because here what we do is like this is like the flow of the data inside of the GPU. We're replicating that. So basically that's the input of the data, and this is how it's going to be processed. And all these immediate steps are processing these input data and generating the output here. Okay, so this is like the diagonal from there to there. So if we add this element, it's going to be behind. It's going to be rendered first, actually. That's what it means. But in the end, it will appear behind. Also, we can change the values in Z a little bit. So let's add a rectangle. Let's make this rectangle. I know the width is with this camera position, all that is 45. So I can make it 45. And let's make it a little bit bigger, like 11, for instance, something like that. Something like that. Let's position it a little bit down here. Okay. Now we can't see anything because it's using the default material. So let's add a material here. Okay. And I want it not to be affected by light. So now you can see a little bit more because the highlights were hiding the elements that we had behind. Sorry, in front. And let's decrease the opacity a little bit. Okay. And let's change the default color to some light green, some light gray, sorry, something like that. Okay, great. So what are we going to do now? Let's add another background here. Okay, so again, a rectangle. As I said, I know that this is 45, and I know that with this particular size, it's 25. So I can get a complete frame with this. Okay, let's add the material. And this material that I put in front, I'm just going to turn this to no light, sorry, and change the color to a dark gray, like this. So now you can see it. Okay, so now we have this, but let's make this background a little bit cooler, right? So let's add a texture here. This is the default texture that we add. I could do it in another way, but I prefer to do it the way I'm going to show you. So I have this material here. Let's take the editor out. So you see that these are the material stages that we are adding to our material, to our basic material. There are many that you can have here. But in this particular case, you see some of them, they have this little control here. That means that it extracts this and converts that into a content node. It's basically this guy here is getting a texture and it's mapping that or passing that to the texture value inside of the material. And that's really handy. It's really cool. Okay, so let me show you what I've done. There are many ways to do that, but in order to make it quicker and easier to understand, I have created a folder here inside my computer where I have I have downloaded all these backgrounds. They're basically Windows backgrounds, but they are weather related. So I've downloaded all of them and I have just named them with different names that are by coincidence, by chance, they have the same name as some of the weather descriptions that we have in that we're getting from the API. Okay, so how we do it? Okay, let's get this. Let's get this. Let's move this here just to organize it a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a convert to text. Okay, base value is going to be this. Okay. Sorry, the base path is going to be this. I forgot the backslash. I need to connect this value to. I forgot to expose it. So let's get in here. Okay. So here in the weather, I have just exposed the description, but I haven't exposed here. Sorry, I haven't exposed this one. Okay, the main one. So let's call it weather main. Yeah, okay, that could work. Let's get out. So now connect this to main. That's okay. So if I take a look at the output, it's going to be called rain. The other one I have numbered it. So just to make it easier now, let's put it 1.jpg. Okay, because all of them are JPEGs. And then select this one here. And all I have to do is just say that the file is coming from here. And now you see it. There you go. Okay, let's change this to a white color or light gray. So now you can see it. Cool thing is that because of this, if we cycle through the different cities, you see that the background image is changing according to the weather forecast in that particular area. Okay. Okay, let's finish this. First of all, what I'm going to do is I create an axis, and this axis is going to be used to position each block, like all the city and temperature information. So all of these guys here. So this one and that one too. And I will create another one for the other one, or for the other block of information, like this one. So here and here. Okay. So what I can do is I can make them bigger and all that, but for now, it will be like that. Let's change the city so you can see it better like that. Maybe I can do this a little bit bigger, yeah, because it's not looking very nice. Let's make this one 1.2. So yeah, much better. And move it in Y a little. Oops, sorry. Move it in Y a little bit like this, and do the same stuff for the other one. Y 1.2. And then move it a little bit to the top like this. So now you can see it much better. Okay, and maybe a little bit next like this. Okay, so now we have this. We are going to use these axes in a minute too. And because now the transition, if we change from one city to another, even if we have this bouncing arrow, it's a little bit too harsh. So it would be better if we have some animation to retrieve the new data and then get back with the new data. Okay, to transition from one to another. Okay, so what I'm planning to do is create an animation for this. Okay, so let's create an animator. So let's select this one, and I will need another. We're gonna add also an alpha effect here. So let's create an alpha here and an alpha here. Okay, so this one, this one, this one, this one. And let's create an animator. Keyframe animation here. And this keyframe animation is going to control the alpha value from this one, the scaling in Y from this one, from that one, the alpha value too. And from that one, we don't need to label it. I mean, normally you would label it, but in this case, the animation, it wouldn't make any difference, okay? So now we have this animator, okay? So let's get into the animation tab. Let's make this smaller so you guys can see much better what we're doing here. Okay, and let's take this out for now. That one. Okay, so this is the animation tab of your interface. We have different tabs that you can check to, or you can select in order to do different tasks, but you can edit them and reorganize them the way you want. In fact, some of the layouts that you're seeing here, I have edited them before, so because I'm more comfortable working another way. Okay, so here we have we can view this as time. So this is like a spreadsheet. This is like traditional curves for keyframe animation, and this is a state machine, which is the cool part, I guess. So let's create a state by hitting the letter S. What's a state? Basically, it's a point in time, or not a point in time, actually. It's a point where you have a set of values associated to this particular parameters or properties here. So I can transition from one state to another, but in this case, we're going to do what in broadcast is called a retake. So basically, we do this, like we drag and drop it with your right button and get back. So basically, this is going to be like it's going to change and get back to the original state. But we want to change it. We wanted to change it in a different way. This stuff that we have created here is what we call a slice. This slice is basically the animation that we were saying before. So if I go in here in the spreadsheet, you see that this is a state one, and we're getting back to state one in the end. So let's go to the right to the center of the transition, and let's add keyframes here. And you can see that we have added keyframes. And let's change this. So I want the alpha to be 0, that one want to be 0, that one I want it to be 0.1. I can also drag and drop it. I can also scroll up through here, but I know the value, so it's going to be easier. Okay, so now, as you can see, we are doing this lovely transition. Great. One of the things that you have noticed is that it is scaling from the top to the bottom. So we can get in here into these and change the scaling center here. And maybe move it down a little bit. So maybe a little bit more. Minus 1.5, for instance. Yeah, now it looks better in this one, and let's do the same for the other one. So scaling center, and I want this to be minus 1.5. Okay, so now I have created this. Okay, great. So what next? What are we going to do now? Now we have this transition, which is great. By default, you can see that we have here these little arrows here. These are methods or rules, as we call them. So let's get rid of those. Let's delete them. And let's create our own method. And you will see what's the utility of this later on. So let's add a new method and call it next value, next val. Okay. Val, not vassal. Okay. So now I go to say that whenever I go there, this is going to be next value. Okay. So if I hit here, you see that it transitions to, it makes the whole transition and gets back to the original state. Now, so now you can see the concept of retake, basically going back and forth into, in this case, like disappearing and getting back to the full version of it. Okay, but we also want this to change the values when we are going to the next value, to the next city when we are doing this animation. how we do it. So let's make this a little bit smaller. And then let's select these guys here just for organization. Let's move them all around so we are not messing around and everything. Okay. Like this, okay? So if I go to the container that we have created, this container can also be linked to the animation. Okay, let's get this here. And as you remember, we have created this thing with the keys to move to the next city or to the previous city. But same stuff that we are using, since this is a method, we can link it to many different things. So it can be controlled in many different ways. So let's expose this one. That's going to change the city. Okay. Let's select the animation here. And now I want this to be controlled by the animation. Cool. Now you see that we have a new channel here. So the cool thing about it is that, oops, I have created this, sorry. Let's select the slice. Oh, shit. Sorry. Now it is. Okay. Sometimes a little bit complicated. So I can also create a keyframe here to trigger this next city thingy. So let's create it here. And each time we go through here, a new value is, you can see it there, a new value is triggered. So if we go, new value, new value, new value. That's cool. Excellent. So now we're pretty much done. What else we can do here? Okay, the next thing that we can do is like, I want this to happen like automatically. Let's get out of automation for now because we don't need it now. So I have created here this method, the next value method. So instead of scrubbing through all the different elements that we have and animating them, I can just trigger this method and everything will happen, will be controlled by this animation method in this particular case. So I can even create a counter the way I did before, but counter can work in two different ways. It can work the way we have seen many times before, like you cycle through the values, but it could also auto run. So it can be used as something that's running, and when it reaches the end, it triggers the value. So that's what we're going to do here. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to hit auto run. I don't care about the values. In this case, it's not important. You see that it's, sorry, I have to press loop, hit auto run. And now you see that it's looping all the time like crazy. Let's change the interval, made it like 25 in this case because it's frame based. So now you see that it's going slower. And you see that these little lighting things, these ray things, it means those are events that are triggered when something happens. So these are triggered when it reaches the end value, and another one when it goes beyond that value. Okay. So what we do is like, I just have to, all I have to do is just say next value is controlled by overrun. So meaning that when it overruns, it will trigger next value. Okay, so let's check it out. It should go. Let's see if it's, yeah. Sorry, what I did. Let's check. Maybe I didn't connect it correct. State machine. Next value is control and reach. I don't care. Interesting. Something's happening here. So let's get into the animation. Oh, I see. Yeah, I know what it was. I was completely outside of this state, so he didn't know how to go to the next state. Now you see that it's working here. Okay. Let's get back to logic, and now you see that it's working. It's triggering all the different values. Next one, and it will be working like that forever. Okay, the only thing that we have to do right now, the last thing that we have to do here is that I would like to change the language here. So if we get into this container, you will see that as part of the string, you see that I have this value that's called language. How we change it? Basically, you have to use two different strings, en or es, depending on the language. I'm just going to switch between Spanish and English. So all I have to do is just I can create an expression. There are many ways to do it, but this is one of the easiest ones. So sorry, not an integer, like an expression, string expression. String expression like this one. So, and here we're going to put a conditional statement, okay? This follows the same syntax that you have on C# or C++, so it's quite easy. So basically, I'm going to say value A, it's equal to 0. This has to be between parentheses. Then output S. If not, output English. Okay. Great. You see that I have a problem here. You'll see why in a minute. Let's make a counter. That's another possible use of a counter. You can use it as a switch. So here I just want it to have to be 0, 1 and to loop. So basically, whenever I hit this, it's going to be expose it. It's going to be 0, 0, 1, 0, 1 all the time. Okay. So that's the first value we're getting from here. But again, we still have this error. Why? Because this is a string expression. And the first part of the expression is telling equals 0. So basically, I have to treat it as a string. And now it should work. Okay. If A equals 0. Oh, sorry, I forgot something here. Now it is. So I needed the exclamation sign. Sorry, the interrogation sign. Okay, so now this value is coming from here. So whenever I hit this, you see that now it's in Spanish, now it's in English. Of course, I can also expose this and call it, sorry, not this one, that one, and call it value or language, for instance, line switch. And let's call this language. Whoops. Okay, and now if we go outside of here, I can switch to language here. Okay, so that's mostly it. I know, well, 1 hour. Perfect, right timing. Let me check the questions you have there, if there are any questions or if anybody's sleeping already. Let's see what I have here. Okay, questions. Well, just congratulations. Perfect, man. Okay, so that was it for now. Hope you guys liked it. Let's get in here to this other scene. So thanks for attending the show or the webinar, as I said. And here's the information where you can check for stuff about Ventuz. You can go to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, LinkedIn. This is my email address if you want to ping me. And of course, don't forget to download the PLE version, the personal learning edition that you can get at ventuz.com/downloads, and have fun. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.